And this is what I think side hustles do really, really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
They transition you from paycheck mindset,
Sure.
employee mindset,
Sure.
and teach you how to be entrepreneurial and have that mindset.
Welcome to Thriving the Future podcast, where we're finding positive solutions to thrive in the tough times ahead. Episode 7, we're talking about side hustles and failure is an option. So what are some of the other steps? I think one of the things that you really need to address is when you're doing your inventory there on your side hustle is what's your definition of success? There's a ridiculous amount of people who think that this side hustle is going to get them enough money so that they can quit their job.
What is the life cycle of a side hustle?
Businesses, especially small businesses like this, have cycles. Products have cycles, right? You don't think about it, but I mean,
Side hustles are highly niche. A lot of times it is you start doing something as a side hustle and you learn from it.
Correct, yeah.
And it informs the next thing you try.
Sure.
And it informs the next thing you try.
Sure.
And some of those things are short-lived. I mean, most people can't write enough books to pay for their life. So you might write 1 or 2 books. Those 1 or 2 books are kind of like a side hustle.
Right.
They have a cycle. You're going to start writing. You're going to market it. You're going to advertise it. You're going to publish it. You're going to push it. You're going to sell it. And hopefully you get it sit there on a little residual self-publishing thing so that it's coming back around. You talk about it every once in a while. But you move on to another thing. Or another side hustle.
Yeah.
Or another. There is a limited side hustles. I think that's why they're not entrepreneurial ventures.
Okay, so what's this is one of the keys we've had in our side conversations that I think is real important. So what's the difference between the side hustle and the entrepreneurial venture? Number one is mindset.
Long-term viability.
That's one.
Ability to move beyond income that is filling a gap. To move beyond income that is extra. You're moving into this actually pays more than pays for my subsistence.
Well, plus also, sometimes when you do a side hustle, you will not pay yourself. Or
oftentimes. You don't pay for the time.
Most of the people.
Time is donated.
Right, it's donated. And then it's like, so you think you're making money, but you really discounted some of the stuff you used, the electricity you used, and your time, most important of all. But the entrepreneur figures that out and includes that in their price.
An entrepreneur has figured out a value product to give people that people are willing to cover the real costs on.
Right, and that's the key. Yep.
And that's why market gardening was not for me. I had a value product. I created a lot of it. I could have done more. There was not the market to cover that.
Yeah.
In a way that would make it entrepreneurial.
Right. I took kale over to the same market that you were working at, and I sold it for $3.
Yeah.
Well, you can buy it over it, and somebody went out of their way to tell me that they could buy it over at Dillon's for $1.99.
Well, you're lucky.
Okay.
I was told how much a salad cost at McDonald's.
That's funny.
I was told I buy mine in a can.
Yeah. Well, not yeah. That's a different.
Do you buy lettuce? I'm sorry. We'll just cut that.
That's a different client, right? But the
not my customer. And this is what I think side hustles do really, really, really good. They transition you from paycheck mindset,
sure,
employee mindset,
sure,
and teach you how to be entrepreneurial and have that mindset. The failure after failure after failure after failure, the end of the little cycle after the end of a cycle after end of a cycle on side hustle after side hustle after side hustle is what teaches you to be an entrepreneur, or you give up and you find somebody to work for. And that's why I think side hustles are actually being performed by the wrong people.
Really?
Yes. they should be aimed at children. I read a Twitter thread. This one girl helped her mom at the farmer's market every weekend, so she got some money from that. She used that money to buy 2 goats because she wants to do milk goats. And you had said something about let's do a side hustle earlier in the day. Let's do a podcast on side hustles. And I was like, this is my frustration with side hustles. That little girl has a side hustle. She's now milking goats. The goats give her milk. She sells the milk. What did she really do? She invested in learning how money works. She invested in how that works. But she's invested in something that will grow. The money that she gets from that milk can go into another venture. And so there are plenty of adults that are so much in that net worth blind state, wage slave. They don't realize their true value. They don't truly realize their net worth, their whole 8 forms of capital.
Correct.
So they need to be doing side hustles. They need to do side hustles that fail so that they can start building up out of that spot. But that is really should be targeted at children. Taking their allowance and
because that girl
buying USB drives and putting Linux on them so that they can give those to sell those to adults, or there was that kid a few years ago that was going around to all the neighborhoods collecting this compostable stuff at everybody's house with his wagon and his bicycle, right?
Sure.
Taking it home and composting it and bringing compost back. Right, ran this whole little business thing. That was a side hustle. Adults should not be doing side hustles. They should maybe have several things like that are fully developed business models that cover more than their subsistence.
Right.
Or cover their subsistence giving them the life that they want intentionally.
Right.
But everybody doing these side hustles is locked into a job, sitting in a cubicle or whatever, trying to escape that with creating a website with the funnel and all that.
Yeah, I got into IT because I was doing a side hustle. I bought I paid $59 for a set of flashcards so I could take a certification test. Now you would buy ebook or you would buy a book, right?
Yeah.
Or you'd pay for e-class, whatever, right? Of course. And I was also learning programming, messing around because I kept beating my Nintendo games, right? So I was learning BASIC, and there was some program in the book about making it must have been some sort of database thing, and it was like index cards. Index cards are like flashcards. So when it came time the next year for me to take my next certification, I wrote my own flashcard program for myself so I wouldn't have to pay that $59. I studied just like I would to take the test.
Right.
But then I wrote questions pretty much like if I had index cards, right? I wrote a program that was basically electronic index cards that I would have done as flashcards.
There are a bunch of those.
Right, yeah, I know, but back then there wasn't.
Right, I understand there wasn't.
Right? And then somebody at work saw it.
But it's still useful.
Right, and somebody at work saw it and said, crap, you should sell this. So I put it in the journal, professional journal, and ended up selling it everywhere, and then ended up getting out of the medical field and going into IT. So that side hustle didn't make that much money, but it gave me skills. It gave me the
transitioned
mindset.
Your lifestyle.
Right, and it helped me to get to where I decided I wanted to go. So
that's what a side hustle is for.
Yeah. Exactly, and it also got me out of that wage slave mindset.
And I think that answers the question that you wanted to answer with side hustles about how do you do the transition.
Yeah, a lot of the transition is in your head. It's in your mindset, and a good and we mentioned it briefly was failure is an option. People freak out because they say, wait, no, failure is not an option, but yes, they're devastated when they fail.
When failure isn't an option, you fall into the fallacy of, I already have invested something in this, so I have to keep going.
Right.
I have to add more, I have to add more, I have to add more, I have to add more.
Yep.
failure is the only way to stop digging that hole.
One of the things in business is called the sunk cost. It's where you
Right.
say, I have to keep going because I've spent $3,000 on this.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of saying that I spent $3,000 on it and it still sucks, so I need to reevaluate and get out of it.
I spent $3,000 on it. It's failing. I need to put another 5 in.
Yeah, just put another 5 in and it'll be
Right.
good. Yeah, then you got good money after bad money. So
Now I have
we talked last
8,
time
right?
about giving yourself permission to do stuff.
failing
That
should
was
definitely
one
be
of
on that list.
And that was one of the things we talked about was
Right.
Give yourself permission to fail. And I can hear already the clackety clack and the what? What are you talking about? Why should we set out to fail?
The more often you fail, the less it hurts when you do. You learn how to fail, grieve, get up, dream, and try again.
And that goes back into your definition of success.
Right.
Not only should you have an entrance plan, but you should also have an exit plan.
You should go
So-
into it with the knowledge that you can fail.
Uh-huh.
And to say, when I fail, because you're going to fail at some part of it,
Sure.
whether it's big, the whole thing, or just a small bit, right? When I fail,
Right.
what am I going to have learned? I'm going to look for the lesson that I learned in that failure.
Uh-huh. And then have conditions for, I'm going down, I'm not going to ride it all the way to the bottom. It's like when you're trading stocks or you're trading crypto, you put a stop loss on it so that when it goes really far down, you don't do a February 2020, crash. You go back to cash and you wait until it goes down and then you buy the dip and come back up. But
Or you
everybody
just
else,
stay out.
Yeah,
I
or
mean, that's
yeah,
an right.
yeah.
That's an option. But that stop loss gives you a stopping point in the failure, gets you out of the sunk cost,
Sure.
and lets you reevaluate.
Yep.
And that's what failure is for. Failure is about reevaluation.
Yeah, that permission to fail is something that I wish I would have learned a long time. And then the exit strategy, right? What's my exit strategy? What's my definition of success? I don't want to keep it going anymore, or it's saturated, or whatever else. Now I got to find something else to do, or I let it go.
You have to get comfortable with things dying. But there's another thing there. When you're defining success, your definition of success can't be perfect.
True.
And success cannot be your destination.
Good point.
When you get to a destination, you stop and your whole body goes into relax and rest mode because we've succeeded. I'm going to walk a mile. You walk that mile, you'll get to that mile, and your brain will go, okay, that was the finish line. I get to rest now. So if your goal is success and you define it as perfection, then you let perfection become the enemy of the good.
Right.
If you define success and you set that as the finish line, when you get it, you're going to run out of momentum and then it will fail because you've stopped working. So the goal of a side hustle or the goal of that can't be success. It has
Right.
to be those intentions you want for your life, the lifestyle you are trying to design.
And that's the definition of success, not the I'm going to make X number of dollars. It's did
X
I
number of
accomplish
dollars-
my intention, life intention goal.
Right. X number of dollars this year, this month, whatever. It's not the finish line and it's not the goalpost, it's the mile marker. But too much we get focused on it as that is the goal and we hit it. And as you hit it, you actually need to be continuing to go. You need to at least maintain that. But what happens is we go into that resting, like Thanksgiving dinner, right? You dream about the food all the way up, right? You eat Thanksgiving dinner, you have the turkey, the stuff kicks in, and you have a sleep on the couch watching football. That's that same thing. That's what the finish line marker will do to you.
What do you think about the business books that say that you should get your entrepreneurial business to the point where it can run without you?
Awesome.
There's two ways to do that. One is this usual fake promise that you're going to get passive income, right?
Oh, like you can do your side hustle in 4 hours a day.
And then there's the other one where, that you say you're doing a service business, you get to the point where you could hire somebody, or you could get to the point where you could spin up another franchise or whatever, right?
Right.
Where you're not doing all of the work.
Well, there's some people that love that game. Mm-hmm. Right?
Sure.
They love the whole game of make a thing successful, sell it to somebody else, or make it
startup.
Right? They play that game. They love that game. They are good at that game. Mm-hmm. That's what they want to do with their life.
Interesting, yeah.
If that's not what you want to do with your life, then don't do it.
Sure.
Right? This is the limitation you're putting on yourself. You're putting it on the business, of course. You're putting it on the thing. And sometimes maybe you sell that thing and let it go on. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you just stay, no, this is big enough for me. And with that extra time, I'm going to help somebody else build something like this.
Because I like doing it. So
No, because I like doing it. Because I want other people to be successful around me. You're mentoring them. You're not creating a whole nother business, right? I like doing this. So I'm just going to rein it in. And, maybe this employee that's been working for me for a couple of years should actually be out there doing it on his own. And so this expansion area, I take it and offer it to him as a side hustle. Then if he does it right, we're both doing that same thing right next to each other, maybe a little different, but we're not stealing from each other, and we're fulfilling the market need, but we're actually having a healthy community. You can do it that way.
And then I don't have to drive 45 minutes to the other side of town to do something, right?
That's a possibility too. Yeah, there are lots of reasons for it, but there are multiple ways to go against that problem, or to solve that difficulty or that hurdle or that problem or face it. Most people will tell you, well, you just keep going.
Sure.
You just keep going. You just keep going. You just keep going. You make it as big as you can, as big as you can, as big as you can. You own the whole thing. Because they are trapped in doing what everybody says you're supposed to do.
Right.
And a side hustle will definitely teach you to die to that.
Well, and that's another thing. So, you've got all these people that say, oh, yeah, well, there's the 4-hour work week and, all this other stuff. I saw an interesting quote in that book you recommended that we'll have a link to, is that these business books tell you can work half time. Well, half time of an entrepreneur is 12 hours. 12 hours a day. You think you're going to be 8 hours, and
how much sleep do you need?
How much sleep do I need?
No. How much sleep does a person need?
I don't know.
To be healthy?
7-8 hours.
Right. The rest of that you're working. And that 7 to 8 hours is working because you are sleeping so that you can get up and work the rest of them.
Especially, say you're like a Curtis Stone market gardener, you're doing that all summer long. You wake up, you work, you go
spring, fall,
go to sleep,
yeah.
and then in the wintertime you've got some break, right?
No, you don't. You do not have a moment's break. You need to be planning next year's garden. You need to be looking at the future weather forecast. You need to be planning that out. You need to be ordering the seeds. You need to be planning the markets you're going to go to. You need to get in your forms for the markets. You need to be arranging whether your employees are coming back or you're going to have to find new ones. You need to be keeping up the marketing. You need to be doing and pre-planning the Facebook ads. You need to be analyzing the books from last year, finding where you can be more efficient, where you can cut costs. You do not get a winter break. I don't care what anybody says. It's not a winter break. It's a different workload. It's more mental. It's more that. You need to be calling restaurants and talking to them and trying to fill those orders and tell them find out what it is what they say they want. And when multiple ones are saying they want it, then maybe you go into that, maybe you don't. You have all those analyses. You're looking back at past years. You're doing all the trajectories. You're catching up on all the reading in the gardening journals to find out what everybody's going to be growing as the hot new crop, because you don't want to grow that one.
Sure.
Everybody's going to have it. You don't grow that one. And if that was your big product last year, well, you're going to cut back on it because everybody's going to have it in their garden and they're not going to want you to pick the next one.
That's true.
So it's not even true there.
What do you think about the entrepreneur suggestion? Always is the advice is that you should get a mentor. Do you have a mentor?
Sorry. I had a conversation this week.
Why did you bust a gut on that?
I'm going to explain. You probably just leave it in there. I have said over and over and over and over and over, everybody has a life coach and everybody has a mentor because they don't have a best friend. But this week, I have contacted 2 people about consulting on how I could do some things better.
Okay.
If you remember, we talked about things we're giving ourselves permission to do. Mm-hmm. And I said that I was going to give myself permission to be less efficient.
Okay.
And not have to carry that responsibility myself.
And delegate, right?
And delegate.
Okay.
And I went, I don't quite know how to delegate. And
who do you delegate to? Other people on the team at the
other
journal,
people
right?
on the team, but I always volunteer to take more stuff on, right? Instead of, like in the group, somebody will say we should, and I'm volunteering to do it before I'm going.
Yeah, you do jump right in and do it.
And I'm trying to get I'm trying to get better at it. I recognize that problem. And that is sort of a delegation problem. It's sort of a not letting it just be, making it efficient instead of letting it be messy, right?
Okay.
So I actually contacted people that are good at coaching people or mentoring people through getting better at those kind of things.
Okay.
Yesterday and today I've had conversations about it. So you asked, do you have a mentor? Well, if you would have asked me last week, today I have to say I'm considering it.
Yeah, what's interesting, so did you choose that mentor based on the question you had? Because some people say, oh, well, I just want somebody to be my mentor, and, they go and get Joel Salatin to be their mentor or something like that. But, you focused it around what your
what
need was.
What I focused it around was 3 things that came up.
Right?
3 things that came up. 1, I've had an ongoing conversation with a real friend about you need to stop volunteering for stuff.
Yeah, I know who that is.
Right. Everyone knows who that is.
They don't know who that is.
Right. Well, some of them will.
Okay.
And that person said to me, this person consults with people, and one of the things that they do is deal with this problem for people professionally. I said,
really?
Yeah. And I do want to get better at it, right?
So was this somebody you knew?
Sort of, yeah.
Okay.
So I said, okay. We had a conversation in one of the other chats. Some people will know about this conversation. And somebody said, well, I consult for podcasts on how to do better at their things. And I went, oh.
Oh, I know who you're talking about now. Yeah.
Right. So I contacted him. I have a calendar. I'm going to set up something for January. Last week, none of that was going on and was not in my view, right?
Right.
But those things came together. And I don't like taking synchronicity as the universe talking to you, right?
Sure.
Because there is some truth to that, there is some not, right? I'm going to say that I know I'm in over my head. We all know it. Everybody's seen it. I need help. So I have picked some people that are supposedly good at those particular areas, and I'm going to try it. And it's important enough for me on this one because this one's succeeding. The podcast, the journal, and all that is succeeding like nothing I have ever done. And my definition of success...
This podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my definition of success is not the money.
Correct.
My definition of success is engagement from other people. Is people actually doing things and changing their life from what we're doing.
Sure.
And that is important enough for me to invest in. So your question, do you need a mentor? I think you need the experiential capital, and when you find the right thing, you'll know it's time or not time to get a mentor. But I don't think you just need to go get a mentor to actually start. Because what you don't know, the one thing you don't know is what it is that fails in it, what it is that doesn't work. You haven't tried to do a website. You haven't tried to do marketing. You haven't tried to do... If you haven't done any of that, the mentor isn't going to help you.
Right.
There's plenty of free information everywhere.
Or they'll clone you.
Go,
or you'll try and clone their situation, which isn't mentoring.
Oh, it's even worse.
Right.
I know of several people who have gone through one of those classes where they help you fix your business.
Yeah.
They rename your thing. They change.
Yes, they do.
And it all becomes them fitting you into what they have already done for them, right? You become a little subdivision. Yeah. Instead of building a franchise, they picked one up, they stamped their brand on it, twisted it, and then gave it back to you and you paid them to do it.
Right.
You don't need that.
Okay.
You need to hit those barriers. You need to hit the walls. You need to find the things, and then you need to find the thing that's actually working. And I have with this. This is working, and this is we're succeeding because of how many people are actually engaging.
Definition of success.
Right. It's meeting my definition of success.
It's meeting my definition of success.
And I want more of that success. And this is a way to do that, potentially.
Right.
So I'm going to try it.
Cool.
If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And it may not work for me, but maybe it'll work for somebody else. I'm sure that I will come out of at least one lesson. I will know whether this works for me.
Okay.
I will know whether this potentially will work for me. Maybe these are not the right people to help me, but maybe this is the right kind of process. So I've already got 2 failures, right? This process won't work for me whatsoever, so I've marked that down. That could be a failure. These are not the right people to work with me just because we don't communicate well or whatever, right?
Sure.
Because some people communicate way better to me than other people, right? It's just
right.
fact of life. So those are 2 potential failure points.
Yeah, I know some people that don't communicate very well with you.
So I've already marked those. If it fails this way and it fails this way, I learned a lesson and I learned a lesson. This is not the kind of thing for me, so then I won't pursue it anymore, right?
Okay.
This is the right kind of process for me, but the wrong people, I will look for new people. I am already failing before I began, so I can't fail.
Good point.
I know what lessons I absolutely at minimum learn. Everything else is a bonus. That's completely different than getting a mentor because I don't know. I'm going to get Joel Salatin to be my mentor because I'm not sure that I've read enough on books on how to pasture graze.
Yeah, and you don't really.
I've read all his books. I've watched all of his videos. I've read this person. I've read that person. I've read this person. And what you're lacking is hands-on experience. You don't really need the mentor.
Right. What you really need is
real life hurdles and events to teach you while you're failing.
Yeah.
And then when you have enough of those failures lined up, maybe you need to go talk to Joel Salatin because Joel Salatin's been through those hurdles.
Or you need someone that can bridge the gap, either in the things that you lack or the skills that you lack, or something
what you need at that point is maybe the other perspective, a different perspective than the one you got. So that you can go make a whole bunch of more failures so that you can hit that wall and get the next perspective.
Sure.
And that may be your friend next door doing it. It may be talking to Joel Salatin. It may be talking. That's where you would look for a mentor, I think.
Good. One of the things we wanted to cover was something we breezed over, and that is that people still are stuck in the financial model. We briefly covered it, and that is what's our definition of success. And our definition of success, at least for this podcast, isn't necessarily the financial capital. Right.
This one is purely social, cultural, and spiritual.
And
because we want community and we can't find it.
And engagement, which fits into community, right? So and that's important because so many people start their side hustle or they start their entrepreneurial adventure with only focusing on the financial capital and not looking at that this will build this kind of capital. That
experiential.
We already know that it'll build. We've already talked about that it'll build intellectual and experiential capital by giving you skills, right?
Right.
But even more than that, maybe, like we talked before, that our friend came across a tractor. Or no, he came across a dump truck that was probably crap, and then he fixed it up.
It probably needed work. I'm sure
Sure.
I'm sure he would not have bought it if he didn't have the potential. His experience and all that told him that this material plus my skills will create a better material investment.
Correct. And that's one of the keys.
And the goal is not selling it. The goal is to actually have a new tool. And then I can use that tool to build another tool, or to build another system, or to build social, or to build financial.
Yeah. That's where I was getting to, is that.
But it's not direct conversion.
Trade-off, right? Where it's not everything. Okay, I'm started a side hustle, and I've got a bunch of wood in my backyard, and I'm going to cut it down, and I'm going to turn it into firewood. It's that you talked about several steps there with our friend that, he uses his dump truck that he got fixed up, uses it to to leverage another tool, uses it to leverage social capital, uses
He
it
has
to
a dump
leverage
truck, right? If I have somebody that has a dump truck, do you know the number of horse stables that are always trying to get rid of manure?
Sure.
That I can't afford to haul because doing it at a truckload at a time costs too much gas.
Right.
Doing it a dump truck at a time, a dump truck of horse manure, I would, if people have a couple dump trucks of horse manure they want to come dump on my yard, I will show them right where to dump it, right?
Right.
I will be in heaven and happy for months, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's a whole nother podcast, whole nother topic.
We'll have to have a podcast about that at some point here.
Did you want to cover trade-offs while we're rolling on side hustles, or did you want to do trade-offs as a separate? Everything's a trade-off.
Well, we were talking about trade-offs, right?
Right. We could go deeper on trade-offs. We could end recording. We could save trade-offs for a separate one, or we could tie it in with side hustles. I think trade-offs is more... It's broader, right? Because you have financial trade-offs and everything, right? Because one of the things you're going to have to do with your side hustle is look at your finances and how much you can put into investing in this side hustle.
Okay, let's cover that in another episode. Yeah, that sounds good. So now you know what's coming up on future episodes here. Take care, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Thriving the Future podcast. Check us out at thrivingthefuture.com, Twitter with Thriving the Fute. Check out our Telegram group with the link on our website.